which I'd done already in the past. Are we ready? Okay, let's start with roll call.
Okay, John Kekeisen.
Yes.
Brian Frank.
Yeah.
I'm Rick Stack.
Here.
David Broshka.
Here.
4 present, we have a quorum, the others are excused.
Okay, approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
All right, new and previous matters.
Item 2A and B, 20.
Before we get into this, just, as our office is working on this project, I'm gonna abstain from commenting or voting on items 2A and B.
Thank you, Dave. Okay.
All right, so items 2A and B is the Lapham, a proposed new restaurant to be going into repurposing an old funeral home at 1603 South 81st Street. Their menu consists of American comfort food like mac and cheese, braised short ribs, burgers, cheese curds. They've got a max seating of 154 people with 36 of them outdoors in the outdoor seating on the second floor outdoor patio. Their hours, they're closed Mondays and are open until midnight Tuesday through Thursday, till 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday, and then 10 to 9 on Sunday. They're zone C2, and since restaurants are a special use, they will have their public hearing on November 5th. These are the 3 properties, 3 parcels in one property. Here's a look at their interior plans. They have a total of 8,600 total square feet. Almost 1,500 of those square feet is the outdoor seating area. So you'll see on the second floor here, this is one of them, and then this is the other one here. They're gonna have 2 bars, 2 kitchens, and like I said before, a total of 154 seating areas. Here's a look at their site plan. The applicant will be submitting a landscape plan in the next coming days. The 3 lots have 33 parking spaces out of the 57 required for this zoning. But since the area is used to having parking due to the previous funeral home, we don't see that this will be an issue. Once these parking lots are parked up, then people will be able to park on the street. Here's a look at the exterior. So they're going to be adding a few new windows, a hand trowel finish to the exterior walls, adding decorative gas lamp lighting, and then the rooftop dining area will be encircled by a decorative railing. So staff recommends approval subject to eliminating EIFS from the plans and using trowel stucco where needed, submitting the landscape plan with approval from our city forester, resealing existing parking lots, and adding a bike rack to the plans.
Ryan Oshman here, one of the owners, is here too in the audience, should there be any questions. Hi, Jen.
Of course, I have a question. The public, did they send anything out to the neighbors? Because I know the area quite well. It's very quiet there, of course, except when there's funerals. But did they send out any literature stating that there's going to be a public meeting on this?
There's a public notice sent out to 200 feet out from each of the parcels.
And did they get any response so far?
We haven't heard anything from any neighbors.
All right, thank you.
Anything on the parking, the congestion on the street, if there's any street parking, since it only covers 33? So how much parking is there right now with all the residential? And is that gonna congest it even more?
Well, once the, like I said before, that once the parking lots are parked up, the neighborhood has been used to seeing this sort of traffic flow on events when they have, large funerals. So we don't see this as being an issue. Yeah.
Okay. I move for approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? No?
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right, motion passes.
Thank you. All right, item 3A and B, this is the Reunion Restaurant. This is a former Allis Chalmers building, an outbuilding, which was once upon a time an employment office, built in 1937, and subsequently a number of different office uses, sort of manufacturing-based office uses over time. With us tonight are Chris Paul of Capri Restaurant Group, and I'm not sure if his architect, Gene Eggert is here too, so the design team. So we've been working with Chris and Gene on this concept. It's currently owned by this Community Development Authority of the city, and the city's interested in selling this. I'm working on a purchase and sale agreement with Chris. He hopes to perhaps close by the end of the year, at which point he would take over, pursue building permits and so on. So we're here tonight basically to discuss the use, the zoning of the property, and the site landscaping and architectural plans. So the property is zoned manufacturing M1. It's about a 9,000 square foot building. It consists of 2 floors. It's a brick building primarily, somewhat of an Art Deco style, and the Reunion's going to be a full service restaurant, American flair type of food, including burgers, fries, cheese curds, and all the wonderful things we like. Maybe just borrow a mouse. And it'll consist of also some gaming, both indoor and outdoor. We'll get to the site plan in a little bit. But within the building, the primary seating and bar area will be on the ground floor and the first floor level. And then on the second floor, there will be activity event space for parties and corporate events. There'll be a separate gaming room up there. And then outside, there'll be 2 volleyball courts, a bag toss, and some picnic tables, as well as an outdoor bar. Seating capacity is roughly about 224 seats, 88 of which are going to be on a front porch addition that's going to be constructed on the front of this building here. The hours are roughly 10 a.m. to midnight, and there may be some adjustment within those hours for special events, Sunday brunches and so on. They may open slightly earlier on occasion, but they don't tend to be a closing time type of establishment. It's going to be probably 10 a.m. to midnight. It's not going to be the bar closed crowd. It's just some pictures that were submitted with the application, just to give you a sense of the interior design aesthetic that the Capri Group is interested in bringing to the interior of the building. Sort of a cozy, warmer feel, some industrial touches to the building, modern. So this is the overall building footprint and floor plan. The blue areas are additions. This is the front porch addition. Greenfield Avenue here is on the bottom. North is up. And the existing building here is in green, and the additions of an elevator here and a front porch with seating are on the south side of the building. Some of the interior functions, again, are just the bar area here with some pub seats and bar seating. There is a small game room on the first floor, and then the main dining room is sort of an L shape, which wraps around the restroom areas and kitchen. There is a main corridor that runs through the center of the building, east to west, to an east exit and entry. a stairwell, and also the main front entrance facing Greenfield Avenue. There's also a north entry exit off the back of the building, which is accessible from the 41 parking stalls behind the building. There we go. This is the wider view of the site plan, the overall property area. And you can see the 41 parking stalls which are existing behind the building. Currently, there's an asphalt parking lot east of the building too. If you recall, the Cousins restaurant is just east of here. So when you're playing volleyball, if you hit it over the 15-foot nets that are proposed around the volleyball courts, they may lose a few balls to the roof. But they're trying to. We'll show an elevation of the netting, but there is a fence, a decorative fence and wall proposed around the outdoor area, and then on top of that, at least on these three sides here, there is a 15-foot set of netting that's going to extend up to hopefully catch some of the balls on site. There's also a fire pit, bags, picnic tables, an outdoor bar area here, and then there's these two parallel stalls here are for kind of a quick pickup. If you call an order in for carry out, it's some available space for kind of grab and go type of customers. The refuse area is over here, and this is just a separate like shed for landscaping equipment and so on. One interesting point of this is that there is existing landscaping in front of the building, and that green space is going to be maintained. Some of it's going to be eaten up with a new covered porch addition, but we are asking for an updated landscaping plan to show some infill landscaping, some ornamental trees and perennials perhaps. But in this area here, what appears to be grass, this is actually be a synthetic turf where the bags games are and where the picnic tables are. And that's going to be in this area just to sort of, they had contemplated grass, but I think just over time with the wear and tear, the grass will wear out and it'll turn to mud. So they wanted to go with something a little bit more durable.
Hey Steve.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I interrupt quick?
Go ahead.
That plan is still
In,
workable, because the challenge really is the drainage of the property. So
Okay.
we're just waiting on those final drainage plans on whether we
Okay.
need to have something permeable or if we can do the solid.
Okay.
thick grass.
Okay. So we would ask, I mean, as part of our recommendation, I guess I would just ask for Plan Commission's consideration of, you know, those types of tweaks and to allow staff to work with, you know, the applicant on those types of changes. Whether it's actually a turf or grass or some other permeable feature. I mean, drainage is going to be a big part of this. It is currently completely impervious site, except for the front Greenfield Avenue grass area. As they work out the details of the stormwater drainage, I guess we'd just like the flexibility to work with the applicant on those tweaks. If something changes drastically, I guess we could certainly bring it back to you, but we anticipate this to be the finished site plan look of the property. This is not clicking here. In terms of parking, with the number of seats proposed at roughly, I think it's 136 inside, and then with the outdoor covered additional 88 there, there's roughly 200 plus seats. They do currently have cross-access agreement with the Whitnall Summit Group, which is here, as well as a shared parking agreement with them for an additional almost 100 stalls, I think 99 stalls. So they do have that agreement as part of our, I guess, recommendation. We're just, we'll be taking a closer look at that agreement, but they do have the ability to park on this site after 4 p.m. For the majority of these stalls here. And then just a view looking to the north towards the old AC shops, which are currently Blast Cleaning Technologies, and associated parking to the north. In terms of architecture, this is the current look of the exterior of the building. Again, it's primarily existing building with a porch addition onto it. What's shown here was spec'd as a asphalt shingled, dimensional shingle roof with column supports and a decorative railing of some fashion. The exact details of which aren't 100% 100% worked out yet. We are talking with Gene Eggert and Chris on perhaps simulating or emulating some of the historic Allis Chalmers shed-style roof that you would see on the adjacent building behind this as one option. Perhaps it would include a metal roof and some of the decorative bracketing that you would see on that historic building just to the north, as highlighted there. You can see some of the decorative bracketing is cantilevered out. There's also some brackets that are coming back and tying into the building. It's something we just want to work with the design team on. It's just a closer look at that highlighted area there. We feel this would be a nice, a good look for the building, and perhaps some of these elements could be incorporated into the new covered porch. This is just a view of the volleyball netting and the decorative wall area around the outdoor yard area. View from Greenfield Avenue on the top, and the view from the parking lot to the north on the lower portion. On the east and west sides of the building, the new elevator shaft addition is shown on the left, upper left. That's the view of the existing building at the bottom. So there is some removal of windows for that new elevator. And then on the right side is the east elevation. You can see the wraparound porch wrapping around to the east side, and then on the lower portion, the existing building. So we are recommending approval, subject to the conditions in your staff report. Now we'll admit that there's item 1C. We are asking for consideration of some architectural details on that adjacent 6682 Greenfield building, a historic, Allis Chalmers building, to be considered on the Reunion building. Yes, perhaps some design elements being brought over from that to this building. Aside from that, this will be going before the Common Council on November 5th for a public hearing. We haven't had any objections to date that I'm aware of. Certainly there's still time for that, or positive comments as well. So but are there any questions? Yeah, David.
Can you go back to the elevations?
Yeah.
One more.
Sure.
Okay, so,
There we go.
and I guess my question is more for the outdoor space, which would be,
Next slide.
yeah, the next one. I'm just curious, and I had trouble reading this on the plan, but is the intent there, essentially they got a, the wall going up, is the wall in between Greenfield and the volleyball courts? Is the intent then that it's being screened?
Yeah, so let me go back to the site plan here.
I can answer that.
Yeah,
If you go back to that picture.
sure.
The screening is from grass up 15 feet high. That
Yep.
wall that you're seeing is actually the north wall of the volleyball court, which is, there isn't a masonry wall and a fence on the street side, except to the left of the screening.
Okay, I guess my question is, from Greenfield, can I see all the action happening? Or are
Yes.
we blocking that off?
No, you're gonna,
Okay.
you'll see right through the screening.
Okay.
Yeah, the block wall is on the parking lot side, and then
On the
right
back.
around
That was my question. It was hard to
Yeah, we're
read, and
looking
that was
through
my
this.
question, is why, we almost want to engage the street a little bit and have that interaction, or have
Yeah.
people
If you're,
actually see
if
the
you're
action
familiar at
happen.
all with Capri Restaurant, or over there, we
Yep.
built a wall over there around our patio, and
Yep.
it's a live wall. We're gonna do the same concept here, so we have plantings in it, just to give it
Sure.
more decoration as you're in the parking lot.
Any concerns about the balls possibly going into the road?
We've investigated other places, and no one else is at 15 feet right now, and we're on Greenfield, so it's a challenge, right? And then Cousins, we don't wanna be in their drive-through, so we get that.
No, that's
That's
that's not that big of a deal, but volleyball lines in my car while I'm going through drive-through, I figured that out, but if I'm driving 30 miles around down Greenfield,
Fair.
and a ball hits.
The thing is, we're still gonna be, the courts are still quite a bit in, so if you look at that, they're not right up to the property line by any means, so.
Okay, that's
you
what I
look at
wanted to kinda
the-
find
the
out.
Furthest over the court is, there's a big open area, and then there's still the fence and the green space on top of it.
Yeah, all right.
15 feet from that far over, we felt really comfortable with.
Yeah.
But certainly, we'll do whatever needs to
I
be
mean-
done. We don't want any problems either, trust
Yeah,
us.
right. And the volleyball is, you're going this way?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any objections? Passes.
Thank you. Item 4 is related to this property, but also two others just east of here. So 6610, 6512, and 6500, which are all zone manufacturing. And all of these uses can continue, I guess the 6500 bar is a vacant, empty bar, but the Cousins property at 6512 and the proposed Reunion restaurant at 6610 could exist and thrive within a manufacturing zoning district. But I guess as part of our future land use goal, we'd like to see these rezoned to commercial. And we've contacted each of the three owners, including Chris, and none of them are opposed to rezoning. They'll still be able to continue their restaurants, some with drive-throughs. So the 6500 bar, which is vacant right now, could come back to being a bar or a restaurant or some other commercial use or even a mixed use in a commercial zoning district where it could not be in a manufacturing zone. So one added benefit for the 6500 bar being converted to a C3 zoning would be that it could be a mixed use with apartments above, which is how it was originally designed back in the day. That's this building right here. One with the 6610 property, this is our 2030 land use map. To be consistent with between zoning and the land use, state statute requires us to amend the land use for this property. So there will be a public hearing process to consider not only the rezoning, but making sure that the land use component and classification is commercial, so as to be consistent with the proposed rezoning. All of this would take place on December 17th. We have to go through a statutory process, and it would require public hearings in advance, 30 days in advance of the actual hearing date, notifications to property owners in the immediate area as well as the involved property owners. And so all that would sort of wrap up on the 17th of December. So we're recommending Common Council approve both the land use map amendment and the rezoning.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, it's approved.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Onward, okay. Turn over to you, Mark. UHS is here tonight. We've got the design team, Mark Spies, Brian Randall, and team here with UHS, and they're proposing a revision to what was approved back in June and approved by Common Council on the 16th. Now, none of the usage as a hospital is not going to change. It's continue to be a hospital. The footprint has somewhat been reduced, about 3,000 or so square feet, and there's some design changes in the exterior architectural of the building. We feel, though, that the design intent is being maintained. It's still going to be a very attractive building for the neighborhood, which is important, and there are also going to be some site changes. The site changes really amount to some removal of some trees and landscaping around the back side of the property, on the east side of the property, where a retaining wall is, and then some other smaller areas on the north and south sides of the building. In total, though, it's not going to be a detriment to the neighborhood, in staff's opinion. Mark here is going to give us a little tour of the changes, and be up to us, the Plan Commission, to determine if you're comfortable with these changes and ask questions.
Yeah, so basically I'm gonna just touch on each one of these items, and I apologize if some of it may be mundane or not, but our instructions were, or the agreement says, like, if there's any changes, we need to present them back, so I'm gonna walk you through each one of what these changes are.
And while Mark's plugging that in, I'll just reintroduce myself. Brian Randall, attorney with Davis & Kielthau. Actually, I think I'm the applicant on this particular file. But Ron Pilgreen is here from UHS. Ron, if you can wave from the audience. Ron is our senior development manager. And Tom Olenichik from Harwood on the civil engineering side. So our team's the same. As Steve introduced, the operations haven't changed. We still have a 120-bed hospital, 200-plus employees, needing to open it in 2021. 68th and Mitchell is the site. So everything is operationally the same. We're not needing to reopen the special use permit part of it. It's simply the design piece. And as Mark just pointed out, that long list of the bullet point items, really the story is best told through the pictures. And some might conclude you really can't see the difference. I was talking to Alderman May about that before the meeting, but nonetheless, given that we have the staff review and agreed to come and present this, we wanted to make sure you had all that information before you. So Mark, if you can take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through each one of these images, and what you'll see is the stuff on the right is what we're proposing, and the stuff on the left is what you all saw back in May 31st. Okay, so first one item is this building area. The only difference, it shrunk by about 3,000 square feet, and really the gist of it is right here. There was some original shell space that we're building out for a future addition. We were just able to basically capture some of that, not build it now. So we have to pay for that cost right now.
Mark, you want a chair?
No, I think
Okay,
it's
sorry.
okay. The next one is the rooftop unit screening. So what we have is on the left again, so this was previously, we've taken these parapets down that were screening the rooftop units in these areas. We left the one that faces Mitchell Street as is, and now we're screening these units. It's a system that mounts directly to the unit themselves, so there's not roof penetration, et cetera. It's actually a pretty slick system that gives us access, screens the units, but just we're able to bring these overall parapets down along here. So that's kind of the overall view. This is looking around the backside. Just you can see we've dropped these down along here. We've resized the units. These are a little bit more accurate now to what they're actually going to be and position them in the correct spot. And then here's a view from West Mitchell Street. So again, we've kept this height the same, and then a street level view here to where you're not going to be able to see the units themselves. Okay? And I'll go through all these, and obviously stop me if you all have specific questions, but there's several to get through, so I wanted to just run through all of them. Other area where we made some revisions is along the 68th Street here. These parapets have been manipulated anywhere from 8 inches to 4 feet. We've dropped them down. So you can see over here, this one dropped down the most, and it goes back to how we're screening the rooftop units themselves. Views along this side here, so we've still got height articulation. It's just a little bit lower than what it was previously. And then again, here's what our current new proposed option is versus this one. So again, just articulating the heights somewhat. Other one is we've just lowered this is one that would not really be perceived, but we've lowered the height of this. The gym is here, and then the main entrance is up here. They lowered, like, this one's 19 inches and this one's, I think, 18 inches. Based on just the constructability aspect of it, and just kind of as the design progressed, we originally had a sloped roof portion kind of sandwiched in between here. Going back to kind of the building area reduction, we pulled about 5 feet out of this space right here, and then just from a constructability standpoint, it was too difficult, or didn't make sense to kind of force this sloped roof right in here. And then the other place is we have 2 Sallyport entrances, if you all remember, one along 68th Street up here, and then one kind of back of house one here. We've just revised the sloped roof portion back here to a flat roof that just follows the profile of the rest of the building, because this is kind of a back of house area. Entry canopy sizes, so this main entrance here, we reduced the size of that. It still accommodates, double lanes essentially to get around and have patient and family visitor drop off here. So this one reduced by size somewhat. And then this outpatient portion right here, this reduced as well. Still provides all of the adequate coverage that we need. We were just, again, through the design aspect of it, we'll be able to pull the size down some. So again, here's the outpatient one. We squeezed it back down somewhat. It's still giving. This one was this was only to be pedestrian anyways, so we still have covered from the inclement weather, like we still provided that cover, but we were able to pull the size down some. So all of those were related to kind of the overall profile of the building, heights and sizes. This is more, now I'm going to get into materials somewhat. So the original proposed design, this was all a cast stone material, this banding here and here, and then kind of the lintels of the windows. We're now going to revise that to just use a brick, but a soldier style brick coursing in here. So a little bit more economical, and we can keep the same trade kind of moving along with this facade. So you're not going to really perceive it from a distance anyways as far as the change in material. The other one is related to the cast stone as well. So original design, we've got all of a cast stone material that it forms our base here. That hasn't changed along 68th Street and along West Mitchell as well, so that all stays the same. But we have revised it to around the kind of the back of house portions of the building. So, well, actually, so again, it didn't change from, there's no change from here as far as the water table is concerned from here to here. Where it did change is, so now we're at the back of the property here. So all inside here, that cast stone water table material is, we're using just a standard brick. It will be a different color to give us that accent effect, but it won't be that different material. Next is just the gym facade itself. So this facade here was an alternating cast stone material here. We've now just done it in alternating brick style. So that's just to get you oriented, but looking more close up, that's ultimately what it's going to look like. So a field brick with an accent soldier course brick material.
We did not have that image from the first go around. That's why that side was
Yeah,
white.
we have white, and that means we just didn't render that.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Previously, but we've rendered it now just to make sure you could see the full effect.
Just in the course of the design as well, we had a little bit of fiber hardy board siding on these patient wings here. We think it looks better and kind of revised that material and taken out that material altogether. So now this is just the field brick goes up to here. Next item is the screen wall. So this wall right here is just screening, dumpster, generator, and stuff like that. So we originally had kind of a little bit more robust pilasters along here. We've now revised that. We kept the same amount of landscaping in here, but now it's a brick reveal. It's a little bit hard to see from this distance, but we're using brick to articulate that detailing here. So there's some brick recesses along.
And
this
Mark,
facade.
the banding along the top is more enhanced.
Yes. Yeah, and the in condition is low. So again, it's just redetailing this space. So windows is the next area. This main entrance changed a little bit. You can see from this side versus this side. The corner itself is the same. I mean, we're manipulating a little bit mullion spacing right now as we refine the design, but it's still a full height curtain wall system here. We've tweaked, this is where we've tweaked kind of the window system. This was showing kind of full height here as well. We've now just broken it just based on the canopy bisecting it, so that's more of a constructability detail. That's why we revised it that. So you can see here, it just breaks it here, whereas before it was all full height glass on that piece. This essentially didn't change on that corner. Next item is the clerestory windows. So previous version, we had kind of a ribbon window system at this sally port here. We have just now broken it kind of into with some brick. It's again, constructability type issue here, still the same look, but it's easier to construct this piece. So changed the glass system on the sally port. On the gym, it has changed as well. So kind of the same thing. It was more of a ribbon system here. We've now just done more of a punch window opening, and we're going to have columns here anyway, so we're going to put brick in between those two. And then we've taken out some of this excess glass along this top corner here, and that's just brick facade. Next item is this back of house support area as well. All of these windows for the most part aren't technically needed because this is support spaces, kitchen, electrical rooms, etc. But we've got them in there from an aesthetic standpoint just because it faces 68th Street. We've just reconfigured the window and rhythm system here, so you can see previously we had a little bit more. These are actually bigger, but the spacing is slightly different. Last one is landscaping. We've approximately reduced the landscaping by only about 15%. So this was the original version. Essentially, the stuff in red is what goes away. So we made it a point not to affect really anything along the main frontages here on 68th and then West Mitchell as well. Some of the green is additional landscaping that we've had to change, like we've added actually, because some of this back of house stuff has changed a little bit from the previous design. Okay, and really those were all the items, and I purposely kind of went through them fairly fast, but we can jump back to whichever ones you want. I mean, the intent here is to show you, yes, we have changed things, and a lot of it is just, again, as designs get refined, there's better ways to do things ultimately. But in working with Steve and John, you know, we felt like, let's just come back and make sure nobody has any issues with it. You know, what things that we think are subtle, you all may not think are subtle. So that's why we wanted to go through this with you all again. So I can answer any additional questions. Yes.
Oh, I've been in construction, and it just seems like you're taking a beautiful model and you're just taking a lot of it out of it to save a lot of money. That's just my opinion.
So the last part is true. We're trying to save money. We don't feel like we've compromised the aesthetic, the spirit of the aesthetic of this by any means.
Maybe
But yes,
not the
we are
spirit,
saving on it.
but you can see that it is not the same building. For somebody that never seen it before, they're never going to say that. They're going to go, oh, it looks great, which it's going to be a beautiful addition for the area. But I'm just saying, you're taking little things and changing this and changing the size of the windows. It just takes a little bit away from it, that's all. And I have to go with Steve's opinion on this, but that's just as an outsider looking in. That's how I feel.
I'm gonna, and I wasn't here for the first one, so this is the first time I'm seeing this. So, and I don't have issue with a lot of what you're doing, particularly like on the north side. I mean, I think a lot of the decisions that you made aesthetically don't bother me. What caught my eye, not having seen this before, was the south portion, the screen wall and kind of the service area that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
That looks very bare. I mean, earlier the screen wall was at least broken up with the pilasters, and you had more windows going on. That's from somebody who didn't see this the first time. That's the only area that sticks out in my mind as could we do a little more? Could you carry some of you have the accent banding of the Soldier Course of brick, which I think is attractive on the northwest corner of the building. Yeah, I don't know. To me, that looks like where it really got stripped. I mean, the rest of the building, I can certainly see the screening. I think all those things are constructability. You made the case to me from not seeing it before, but this whole stretch here of the windows and the screen wall really looks like it got stripped down. And is there something it's a lot of wall space, and is there a way you could add some back in or do some sort of, again, soldier coursing or something that?
So I think that there is, and this rendering honestly doesn't do it justice, and it's hard to see some of the reveals in here, but
Sure.
There's actually different planes in there.
Okay.
And what, as you're saying this, I'm thinking there's no reason why we can't change brick colors as well to help break that.
I think that would help,
The-
because
the-
you got a lot of wall
The issue here
there.
was there was a lot of excess, you're framing out these walls.
Sure.
To make them bigger here.
Sure.
So I think we can get that same aesthetic,
Yeah, I think if you have a shot of the north,
because you're right. I mean, looking at that, yeah, what we're trying to achieve is not showing up on this.
yeah, if you have a shot of the northwest corner, it looks like you've got that, I'm gonna call it that cream colored soldier course. You've got 3 or 4 bands of that.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they're, again, I'm not trying to spend your money, but if there was a way to, again, hit the top of, add an additional band or 2 across that portion of the building, I think that would help, being that, you kept talking about this face of 68th Street, and this is kind of what everybody's gonna see driving by. I think if there was a way that you could even change the color, or bring something back on that portion of it, I think would help. That's the only area that stands out to me as being really, we cut it back, I think, a little bit too much.
Okay.
But
Any other questions? Steve, what's your opinion?
We're, if we could toggle back to our PowerPoint, I wanna, okay, thanks, Mike. We're recommending approval, and it's really, our revised recommendation here is really just sort of a pared down version of what it was previously, back in June. Let's see here. Oh, do I need to hit the input? Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Uh-oh. Oh, while we're trying to figure that out. Yep, there we go.
You're good, yeah.
Okay. But we're recommending approval, and I think, I thank you for your, it's a lot to take in a little bit of time, but I think you guys hit it on the head. I mean, for the most part, we're satisfied with the changes that we've seen that have been presented tonight, with the reveals along that west elevation, and while the roof lines and some of the parapets have come down somewhat, we feel that the rooftop screening that's been added on top of our rooftop units on top of the building is going to be helpful. It's done sort of a careful analysis around from the different street frontages, from the different vantage points, from the neighborhood's perspective and surrounding use perspective, and we feel that the changes that Mark has presented here are very good and still well within the spirit of what the June Plan Commission approval is. So. If there are some additional things like David brought up, as far as maybe a band or two, or some maybe different color of some of those reveals on that west elevation or northwest side of the building, we're open to that. I mean, I think it's a good add. But that would need to come from you. So I mean, in terms of the landscaping, we made sure that all the landscaping that you see along 68th Street and Mitchell Street stays intact as it was presented to the neighborhood. I feel that's going to be a strong element of this plan, in addition, and a complement to the architecture. So we're in favor of what's been presented tonight, but certainly as plan commissioners, if you guys have some ideas that you'd like to incorporate, I think that'd be open for discussion here tonight. And
What do you think, sir?
Well, like I say, not having being the new guy here, I don't. I mean, I don't know what the discussions were, how we got to where we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I could see supporting it if I don't know if they can, if staff can work with them on just on that screen wall on getting again just running some soldier course brick or somehow just changing the color on it. I mean, I think if they can work with staff on that, I think like I say, that was the only thing that stood out to me, and otherwise, I think I'm fine with the overall look and feel of the project.
And we're happy to do that. We've met with staff twice about this already.
Right.
So I would think rather than take up an agenda slot for you, if everyone's comfortable, and I think I'm speaking for Mark, he would be comfortable working with Steve and the team about how to maybe reflect that comment. That makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I mean,
Mark has he has a price to pay for messing up the computer here. So.
Okay, well, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
okay, with the modification to work with
Yes.
staff on the
Correct.
architectural reveal, brick color details.
Correct. Just on that portion. Yeah.
All say aye.
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 Yeah.
Nay. None. Passes.
Thank you.
1 and 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I can say I don't know that guy. I don't know who brought him.
Good luck with the rest of the meeting.
He should take his computer at least.
I'll take one of the
Okay.
laptops.
Thanks, Tony.
Excuse me.
Okay. Tony's got a attend a library board meeting. Separate item. Katie, going to present the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, I can just present it without a PowerPoint. That's fine.
Let's see here. So on your staff report, I guess we're up to number 6, page 14.
So Presswalla Dental is proposing to open a dental lab at 8323 West Lincoln. It's across the street from their existing dental office. Oh, that's promising.
Yeah.
Now, just turn it off.
The IT answer.
And so this property is zone C2 and medical clinics are permitted in that district. So the applicant has proposed a two-phase proposal for this project. The first phase of the project is primarily, I think I may have written the wrong half. Oh no. The western half. Sorry, to look. Yeah, so on the western half of the site, and they're going to be doing some interior improvements just to one portion of the building, and that's where the laboratory will be. It's about 900 square feet of space. And then the remaining part of the building, which is a former auto repair, the garages will just stay as is and be used. They won't be used for the time being. And so then they're also proposing at a later date, once they've had time to grow in that space, either to perhaps expand their own space or to transform it into leasable areas. And so that's kind of depend on what happens next. They don't have set plans for that portion of the building yet. And so that is the interior. And then looking at the exterior of the building, they are proposing to do to restripe the parking lot, to add some planting beds along 84th and then along the building. And they're going to replace the existing retaining wall and install a wooden gate for the refuse enclosure area that's along the side of the east side of the building. So then for their phase 2 improvements, they discuss closing or reducing the size of these curb cuts. The one on 84th Street, reducing it, the west side of Lincoln, oh, great, reducing it, and then,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Sure. So again, this is the interior that they're planning to remodel, and then later address these spaces and make these more into actual tenant spaces. The parking, planting beds, retaining wall, and the refuse enclosure gate. And then again, reducing 2 of the curb cuts and closing off one entirely, because if this is going to be, just a storefront entry space, they don't need a drive here. Staff is recommending that this reduced drive be included as part of phase 1, especially because there is, landscaping being added here. We don't want, and this tree is pretty large, we don't want people turning into this space and running right into a landscaping bed or boulder. So we are, we would like to see this closed as part of phase 1. And then our other recommendation is looking forward to phase 2, adding some sort of landscaping up here along the street front, just getting more detail on what that will look like in the future. Architecturally, they are replacing this garage door with a storefront entry door, replacing this window with a storefront window, and then replacing this door also with a storefront entry. And the 2 storefront doors will have awnings over them as well. So a really big, nice improvement for this little property here. And then looking at the north elevation, this window and then what looks like it was formerly a window will also be replaced with larger storefront windows. And for the time being, these will remain as is. And so just as a long-term vision, this, and again, this may change based on what happens with this site and the types of tenants that they're able to get there, or if it's for their own space. But just so you have kind of a concept of what they're thinking and how this property could be envisioned in the future, transforming these into more of storefronts. So staff does recommend approval of this proposal. We have gotten the details for the landscaping for phase 1, but we'll need some additional for phase 2, and city forester approval of that. And we also want to, there was really not a strong committal to phase 2, and we'd like to see them either show some sort of progress on that plan within 3 years, we discussed and came to 3 years, or at the very least submit a revised plan to say, well, this is where we are now, and this is what our plan is moving forward. Again, reducing the curb cut as part of phase 1, and then just some more details on the materials, paint colors, and the glass that will be on the building.
No, you go first.
So is phase 2 a portion of this approval, and it would only come back if it's significantly different from what they're showing, or?
Correct.
Okay.
So is this lab, I'm sorry, is this lab like just for employees, or is it a public spot?
Yes, I believe they'll have 2 employees working
But
there.
it's not like where the public's gonna come in there for
Correct.
anything? Okay.
There's no parking for if they put some retail there. It's all on street.
Yes, so I think that's something that will have to be addressed when that comes through, depending on what those plans ultimately end up being. And I do think having the driveway closure in front of there will be somewhat helpful, but it's still not very much parking.
No, because I'm there every day, that's my area,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a busy corner.
Yes, it
Believe it
is.
or not, especially in the morning and 3 o'clock when the kids get out of school. I mean,
Mhm.
that's extremely, there's like no parking there at all.
Right.
So that would have to be something, as we know that, they have to come back and talk to us before they just say, oh, we're gonna just do this. They're gonna have to get some kind of approval for that retail space, correct?
So it will depend, I guess. If they did exactly what's here, which I don't know is very likely, then theoretically they could do that. However, if whatever they're leasing to is a special use, it would have to come back. Or if they change the plan significantly, so maybe it's just 1 tenant, not 2, then they'd have to come back. So
Okay, that's fine.
On the site plan, can you go back to the site plan?
oops, sorry.
Is there room that they can get some parallel parking spots where the garage doors are now?
I don't think so.
Not if it's
See, if
landscape.
you look, it's pretty
Yeah.
tight
it's
right
pretty
there.
tight. Okay.
Maybe 12 feet wide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
I had a question on the site plan, because it looked like, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong. If they're gonna close off that driveway, part of that driveway, would it be better if they flipped it?
As in, I closed this one?
Yeah, I mean, are we forcing them too close to the corner of the building there?
I don't think so. I think because then cars would have to drive in front of whatever this becomes to exit, that could actually create.
Oh, no, I meant more,
Oh, sorry.
um,
Oh, close this side of the
yeah.
of the
yeah,
drive.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Have them close this off so that the drive comes out.
But wouldn't that drive then block off
In
the?
discussions with staff, Steve recommended that it's preferred to close the left side, the west side of that
Okay.
driveway, so the distance to the corner is extended.
Sure, no, that makes sense too, okay.
And parallel parking is possible in front of the building. You saw in the photo there.
There was a car there, but it's hard to
But
say you're
then-
gonna do that, because once a car's there, nobody can get in or out.
Right, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to close the other driveway off
Sure.
either. so.
Sure.
The long-term goal really is to extend into that vacant space, the doctor's lab.
Sure.
So there's really, that's the push, is to get that. So there won't be a huge retail presence there. We're hoping it is all dental lab with just a handful of employees.
Perfect.
Has parking across the street as an existing facility.
Sure.
And the few spots we'd be able to pick up on the street should be adequate.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All approved. Everybody say
Yay.
aye. Nine. Okay, good.
Okay.
Done.
Thank you.
Passes, motion passes.
Number 7, we're recommending approval, subject to conditions in your staff report. And this used to be the Double Dragon Restaurant on
Yes.
108th Street and Wilmer Road.
We've been into this so many times.
It's been empty for a few years. A new owner has purchased it, and he had great intentions of remodeling it for a restaurant or some other future retail or commercial use. Unfortunately, there were some building issues with the existing structure and some of the remodel. So it's now most cost effective just to take the building down and start over. So in terms of starting over, what's before us tonight is just purely demo, removal of the building, the foundation, pavement on site, closing one of the 2 Highway 100 driveways. This one is probably the best to close. And then grass the site over, and there's 5 trees shown on the site. The conditions in your staff report, we're basically just asking for a schedule of when it's all gonna get done. So he's got the building permit in to actually demo the building, and so we, with Plan Commission's blessing and the advancement of the building permit, you'll see this building come down probably relatively quickly, and then it'll, the next steps will be, the rest of the site improvements in terms of, pavement removal and grass and so on.
Are they planning on putting something else then in its place?
Yeah,
in the future?
ideally, so that I think the site will probably be more marketable, either for sale,
Okay.
should the owner want to sell it, and or he does have the intent also, thought in his mind that he wants to put another building up here for, designed to suit, build to suit type of, so once he finds a tenant, he may consider building another building, and then coming back to us with a site landscaping and architectural plan for that.
Any questions? No?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? None.
Okay.
Done.
Thank you.
All right. Lehman Brewing.
This
Oh, no, am I wrong?
applicant has withdrawn his application for Lehman Brewing, so
Oh.
Unfortunately, there were some building issues that were too costly to overcome just within the structure, based on the type of production brew pub use, and the applicant has decided to withdraw his application, and he's seeking another location. Hopefully, we can find something for him in the city, but
Awfully small for a brewery.
very small, but it's a neat location, a fantastic
Great.
location on Beecher, a building that's been remodeled relatively recently.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, couldn't make a go of it at that spot, so.
Okay, very good. Right, signage plan.
So yes.
So
What do we got?
The green and gold zone on Highway 100 has submitted a sign plan for a mural on the side of their building, which is not in this picture, but is located here. And so there was new ownership of this business, and they really wanted to do something fun and put up a mural in their building, and they did not realize that that required approval. So they are coming to us now to
It's
seek.
already up.
It is already there.
Okay. I thought this was a computer rendering
No.
myself. I thought I did.
It is there. But we do think that they have a case to apply under our creative sign ordinance. It does provide a positive visual impact. Otherwise, this is really just a big blank wall, and so it's kind of nice to see something on that space. They hired a well-known, respected artist in the area. It does represent their business in a unique way, and is related to. Sports can be considered entertainment as well. So
Which does this face Highway 100, or does this face, which wall does
This-
this end up on?
Oh, this faces north, right?
Yeah.
They're south, they're facing south, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is like
I believe
Oh.
it's here.
Is it just the one corner there?
I think, actually, I'm not even, oh shoot. Now I'm trying to see where this,
I think that's facing south, because of the car park there, that would be on Highway 100.
Where's the?
Here's the meter.
Yeah, I was trying to find the gas
The
meter.
gas meter is there, right?
Okay.
yeah, oops,
Yeah, there's no bushes in front of it either, so
Right.
yeah, it's facing south.
and it has that.
So is it only half the wall?
Yes, so
The other
it's,
part
it's,
was done by-
it's
with the
10
tree?
by, it's 14
Yeah.
feet by 10 feet, so it's, you can kind of see the,
Yeah, it's right in
basically
there.
like here.
Sure.
I should have gotten a wider shot of it.
I have a question.
Yes,
That might be trademarked.
go Pack Go,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good point.
It's a
I'm
very
not
good
sure
point,
about that.
because that might be trademarked. Because everybody trademarks everything nowadays, and if it's trademarked, they gotta get permission, and it could be trademarked by the Packers, actually. It could be actually traded by them.
Mm-hmm.
Could be, that's,
I'm just saying, if you say yes and then there's a problem, maybe they'll just have to put the little TM or the R, you know? But
Mhm.
I'm just, thought I would say that to
No,
you.
that's a good point, yeah.
I ran into this once, not me, but a friend of mine did something, and then he ended up getting in trouble. He had a bar and he called it, Hard Something Cafe, not Hard Rock,
Yeah.
something else.
Sure.
And they got a letter. He got a letter because it was, and they had more money than he had, so he had to
Sure.
change the name of it.
Yes, I will definitely check in with them
Yeah.
on that, and,
it's a trademark of Green Bay Packer Inc., so it's trademarked.
Aha! And you think I'm
Go
just a
Pack,
pretty
Go
face?
trademark- Go Pack Gold, trademark of Green Bay Packers Inc., registration number.
Look at
It's-
that.
It's Google, love Google.
Yeah.
So that is, yes, according to this, that's a trademark.
Right. And maybe they just have to get an okay, you know, to do it, take a picture. It's probably nothing big, it's just, they don't wanna see people making money off of what it is. And it's not making money, I mean, they're making money, but they're selling their product.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was right. Good for me. I get a green, I get a gold.
You get a gold star.
The other thing I'm gonna ask is, just looking at this picture, I mean, I assume he did a base coat over the side of the building, but they stopped. See where there's that line on the left?
Yes.
Can they finish painting the, so it doesn't look like it's
sure.
half
Two-tone.
done?
Yeah, the
They
two-tone,
probably
right?
cleaned it, like
Could
pressure
be.
washed it.
It could be,
And then how long is this gonna last? I mean,
Yeah.
did they use good paint and it's gonna chip away in a year and, but I don't have a problem just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, based on who the artist was, I would assume that they,
Reputable.
yeah, it's the same artist that did the,
My uncle.
peanut butter
drunk.
jelly.
Oh, my
deli.
drunk uncle.
Oh, okay.
Not just,
oh, sure, the astronaut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right? That's the same guy that did that one?
Yeah, the astronaut, yeah.
okay. Well, any other questions? And motion to approve?
I'll make motion to approve.
I'll second after they check if they got
Yeah.
permission to use it.
Sure.
That would be, prove it, yes, right?
That's right. You would have to, they have to,
Trademark.
because that, Steve,
Mhm.
I brought up a point that
Okay.
is trademarked by
Oh,
the
the
Green
Go
Bay
Pack Go?
Packers.
Yeah.
Confirmed too.
Yeah, so we can just make one of the conditions of approval that they submit something showing that they have permission to use that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, what do we got? Motion number 10, or number 10?
Number 10 is the next meeting. We're not gonna have a November meeting, given the Thanksgiving holiday being close to the fourth Wednesday, well, actually the next day. So, the mayor had suggested either the 4th or the 11th, and I think the mayor was leaning towards the 11th. So if that works for everybody here, maybe just check your calendars.
I have open enrollment for Medicare up until December 7th.
Okay,
So that's gonna be a very busy time. I probably wouldn't be able to make it, but the 11th I probably could.
okay, all right. So
I would kind of like I think the 11th too. I mean,
I could probably make it on the 11th.
Okay.
I don't have, I'm not as sophisticated these guys with their phones. My schedule's outside. It's outside in my car.
All
I
right.
always have it in my car. I didn't know I was gonna need it tonight.
And Dave, you don't have to answer now, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So, just, I guess keep those dates in mind, maybe
Okay.
leaning more towards the 11th, so that's our thought. Moving on,
Yes,
the last item on the agenda is a public service announcement that there's a neighborhood informational meeting November 13th at 5:30 PM at Lane Intermediate School to discuss the Highway 100 corridor, which is an area from the north city limits on I-94 south to Morgan Avenue, basically the south city limits along Highway 100, east to 894 and west to 116th Street. Within this area, the city has hired Gensler, which is a design and architectural firm, urban planning, urban design firm out of Chicago to study the corridor. They've given us a brief at a neighborhood meeting just last week at Irving Intermediate, but this is going to be a follow-up to that, and some of the information they collected at their early on study, as well as from the neighborhood input and neighborhood organizations in the area and businesses within the area. They're going to give us a follow-up of what they think some of our next steps should be within this corridor to not only improve the aesthetic, but maybe to create some new destinations, some imagery within the corridor to make it look like something unique rather than just anywhere USA. Some of the things we heard from neighborhoods and people in attendance at the last meeting last week was that they want to promote a little bit more walkability, bikeability within the corridor, some better cross-access between property owners, some different food choices within the area. They feel that the area is well served for the typical national franchise, but many of the people were suggesting there should be more diversity and other types of maybe mom and pop types of restaurants and so on within the area. Traffic is a concern, safety is a concern in terms of the traffic with all those cars moving around out there. It's not always the most hospitable corridor to walk through or bike through or even drive. So those are just some of the topics, and there's going to be some follow-up discussion as well as probably some visualization and presentation by Gensler at this next meeting. So if you can make it, feel free to attend, and please pass the word on to others. So,
2 questions.
Yeah.
Number 1, what's going on with the old Walgreens on Highway 100 and Greenfield? Can you let me know, can you say something, is anything in the process of happening with that?
and that's one of the topics that would be discussed. I mean, the reason why, I'm not sure really why it's happened, but if it's anything like the Sam's Club property, the Sam's Club decided to, it was kind of cannibalizing itself with its New Berlin location, the West Allis location, and other XYZ locations in the metro area. They were starting to
Too many.
take from one another. So I think maybe the similar kind of Walgreens effect too, with one on just about every major corner may have somewhat of an effect as to why that one perhaps went away. Access to it, and again, just the amount of traffic in the area could be another impediment where it's just very difficult and maybe a little bit forbidding for some to drive through that Highway 100 and Greenfield intersection, and that could have something to do with why they decided to pull up roots there. So,
It does make a difference. That's where I live,
Yeah.
like right there, so.
yeah,
And on the
It's an eyesore every time, same thing with Sam's Club.
yeah.
But they do have it up for sale, so it's not like it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do have a sale sign up, I just don't know if.
Number of opportunities. I mean, it's a detriment in the sense that it's it's empty and it's not an active space. But at the same time, I think those vacancies also represent an opportunity for maybe thinking of what could be. Maybe it's not another Walgreens, but start to take a look at that space and some of the other empty spaces and other properties surrounding that, and what do you want your corridor to be, the Highway 100 corridor to be, and in 5-10 years, doing some visualization of, and some thinking towards maybe some bigger picture stuff. And that's the whole point of this study, sort of market-based study, but also a land use and maybe some thinking about some longer range ideas.
Number two, I wanted to say that Quick Trip is packed all the time. Because we had one of our people on zoning, I know about Quick Trip.
Yeah.
And she was questioning, they'll never make it. And the guy said, we do pretty good research. That place is just steaming with people. It's crazy. They're doing very well there.
Yeah.
I talked to the manager there, and I told him I'm on the zoning. How's it going? Above all their predictions already.
Yeah. Okay.
It's good.
7:11. Do we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would motion to adjourn everybody.
Yeah, second
Aye.
that.
Okay.